Amis, collègues et distingués invités, friends, colleagues and honored guests. La nation Kanien'kehá:ka est reconnue comme la gardienne des terres et des eaux non cédées sur lesquelles nous nous réunissons aujourd'hui. Jogjogué, ou Montréal, est historiquement connu comme un lieu de rassemblement pour de nombreuses Premières Nations. Aujourd'hui, il arbitre une population diversifiée d'Autochtones et d'autres peuples. Nous honorons leur lien permanent avec cette terre et sommes reconnaissants d'être ici ensemble aujourd'hui. The Kanien'kehá:ka Nation is recognized as the custodians of the unceded lands and waters on which we gather today. Jogjogué, or Montreal, is historically known as a gathering place for many First Nations. Today, it is home to a diverse population of Indigenous and other peoples. We honor their ongoing connection to this land and are grateful to be here together today. Maintenant, veuillez accueillir notre maîtresse de cérémonie pour la soirée. Please welcome our MC for the evening. De Montréal, from Montreal, elle est journaliste d'enquête à la presse, où elle couvre des sujets comme le terrorisme, la radicalisation, les questions autochtones, la santé, la société et la protection de la jeunesse. Elle a remporté 7 fois le prix Judith Jasmin, 2 prix au concours canadien de journalisme et a aussi été finaliste au prix Missioner pour une enquête sur l'exploitation sexuelle des enfants sur Internet. An investigative journalist at La Presse, she writes about terrorism and radicalization, Indigenous issues, and matters related to health, society, and youth protection. She has won 7 Judith Jasmine Awards, 2 National Newspaper Awards, and was a Missioner Award finalist for an extensive investigation into the online sexual exploitation of children. Veuillez accueillir, please welcome, Gabrielle Duchesne.
J'ai l'air vraiment trop cool dans cette présentation. Bienvenue tout le monde, bienvenue à Montréal pour cette 76e édition du concours canadien de journalisme. Good evening everyone and welcome to Montreal for this 76th Annual National Newspaper Awards. C'est la première fois en plus de 15 ans que le concours a lieu à Montréal. It's the first time in more than 15 years that the event has been presented in Montreal. Donc, bienvenue. Quelques infos en rafale en commençant. D'abord en français, mes collègues, je ne vous vois pas très bien là-bas, mais je sais que vous allez passer la soirée dans votre téléphone à essayer de suivre la partie de hockey. Je n'ai malheureusement pas mon téléphone, donc si quelqu'un pouvait faire peut-être une pancarte au loin pour me dire ce qu'il y en est, même si je vous vois vraiment mal, ce serait fort apprécié. So a few infos before we start. As you've seen outside, the Habs are playing tonight, first home game in the playoffs. Don't freak out if you smell smoke. We like to burn cars when we celebrate. Also, this is Montreal, not Toronto, so let's try not to be in bed by 11. I think we can do it. It's true, though. I've been a few times to the NNA in Toronto, and I was always in bed very early. All right. Now, I practiced saying the names of many of you this afternoon. It didn't go so well, so I apologize in advance if I don't say your name perfectly. En français, je devrais m'en tirer, je connais vos noms déjà, donc ça devrait aller. Alors, allons-y. Ce soir, nous allons annoncer les lauréats de 23 prix, en plus du gagnant de la distinction honorifique spéciale. À la fin de la soirée, on va révéler le nom du ou de la journaliste de l'année. Tonight, we'll be announcing the winners of 23 awards, as well as the winner of a special citation. At the end of the evening, we will reveal the journalist of the year for 2024. On a eu droit cette année à un éventail très varié de sujets dans les reportages retenus, des histoires inspirantes qui ont fait bouger les choses et toucher directement les communautés où elles ont été publiées, des histoires d'espionnage, de garderie, de guerre aux rats, de pensionnats autochtones et même de sirop d'érable. This year we saw a wide range of topics in the selected work, stories that inspired, made a difference, and directly affected the communities where they were published. stories about espionage, daycare, the war on rats, residential schools, and even maple syrup. J'aimerais demander à tous les finalistes de se lever pour qu'on puisse vous applaudir. If the finalists could stand up so we can give you a round of applause. Yes, stand up. Félicitations à tout le monde. Avant la remise de prix, je tiens à souligner le dévouement de 75 bénévoles, les juges sans qui ces prix n'existeraient pas. These awards could not be presented tonight without the dedication of 75 volunteers, the judges. Thank you. La liste, oui, on peut les applaudir. On va les réapplaudir tantôt, inquiétez-vous pas. La liste complète des juges se trouve dans le programme de la soirée auquel vous pouvez accéder avec un code QR. The full list of judges is in your program that you can access with the QR code. En attendant, on aimerait que les juges maintenant se lèvent pour qu'on puisse les applaudir. If the judges could stand up also, so we can re-applaud you. Je continue dans mes remerciements. Nous remercions les commanditaires qui ont rendu cette soirée possible. Je vais en nommer quelques-uns. D'abord, les commanditaires extra, our premier sponsors, le Globe and Mail, le Toronto Star. Un grand merci pour votre soutien continu envers le programme de prix. Thank you for your continued support. Il faut les applaudir. On les applaudit. It's in the script, you have to applaud after. It's written here. Ensuite, nous remercions les commanditaires de soutien du gala. Thank you to our supporting gala sponsors, La Presse, the Canadian Press, the Winnipeg Free Press, Vividata, and Cision. Il faut les applaudir encore. Un grand merci également aux organisations qui nous soutiennent quotidiennement, our benefactor organizations who make our day-to-day operations possible, La Presse canadienne, FP Newspapers Inc., Glacier Media, The Globe and Mail, La Presse, Post Media, and Torstar. Le moment qu'on attend approche, but first we're going to hear from two people from the board. I will ask Paul Semin from the Winnipeg Free Press and François Cardinal from La Presse, both on the Conseil des gouverneurs du concours canadien de journalisme, de vous adresser quelques mots. Please welcome to the stage Paul Semin, the chair of the NNA Board of Governors and vice chair François Cardinal.
Merci à vous. Usually Paul starts, but we're in Montreal. So we'll do as Stephen Harper did way back. We'll start in French. Merci à vous tous pour ces applaudissements. Mais honnêtement, c'était à vous qu'on devrait les faire parce que c'est toute une époque pour les médias. On ne se le cachera pas. D'abord et avant tout parce qu'il faut couvrir un monde qui se transforme devant nos yeux. Nous sommes témoins de ces changements-là actuellement. Puis ensuite, parce que les défis auxquels l'industrie est confrontée sont nombreux. On se pose des questions existentielles, il me semble, chaque jour. On peut dire qu'on a donc davantage le vent dans la face qu'avant. Mais on peut se féliciter d'un travail absolument exceptionnel au moment justement où l'actualité nous rappelle à quel point notre travail est important.
Thank you, François. And just to echo what François said in the language of the Winnipeg Jets, thank you for the applause. But again, really, it is you who deserve the applause tonight. The challenges facing our industry are enormous, from financials to fake news and access to information and sources. The work you do day in and day out has never been more important.
C'est aussi pourquoi ces prix qu'on va remettre ce soir sont aussi importants. C'est une occasion de s'arrêter, on le fait très peu dans le métier, de célébrer l'excellence de nos réalisations. C'est un événement qui est important pour nous, c'est vrai. On sent quand même une certaine fébrilité ce soir, mais ce l'est aussi pour le public qui profite d'un journalisme de grande qualité dans un moment où, justement, ils en ont besoin.
And again, why these awards are so important, it's an opportunity for us to not only recognize, but to celebrate the best of what our newsrooms do. This event is important for us, yes, but also for our readers and for democracy. Canada, our country, Canada, is a better place because of what you have all done.
Lorsque ces prix ont été décernés pour la première fois, on était en 1959, il aurait alors été assez difficile de prédire où on serait en 2025, de prédire l'évolution du métier. D'ailleurs, au tout début, on a décerné 6 prix et ce soir, on va en remettre presque 25. C'est toute une évolution qui a eu lieu pendant ces 75 ans. Une évolution qui a été marquée par plusieurs avancées. L'an dernier, par exemple, je me souviens très bien qu'on a remis pour la première fois un prix pour un média dans une autre langue que le français et l'anglais, par exemple. D'ailleurs, les équipes qui ont gagné l'an dernier de Tsingtao et de Nunapsiak News sont finalistes ce soir et sont parmi nous encore ce soir. Bravo à eux. Et une autre évolution cette année, et c'est étonnant de le lire comme ça, mais pour la deuxième fois seulement en 76 ans, on compte une femme parmi les finalistes pour la caricature, et donc bravo à Gabrielle Drolet.
It's interesting when we look back, 76 years ago when these awards were first presented, in 1949, no one could have imagined and envisioned where our industry would be today and the challenges related that we'd be facing here together. In 1949, we handed out just 6 awards. Tonight, we'll hand out 25. And we're still evolving. Last year, for the first time, we recognized work in a language other than French or English. Teams from Tsingtao and Nunutsunik News were finalists and are in our audience tonight over, where are they? Here we go. And this year, for just the second time in 76 years, I can't believe I'm saying this, we have a female finalist in editorial cartooning. Congratulations to Gabrielle Drolet.
On veut aussi, Paul et moi, prendre le temps de remercier ceux et celles qui nous ont précédés, y compris certains grands noms du journalisme qui se cachent derrière certains prix. On tient d'ailleurs à remercier les membres de la famille, les amis de ces pionniers du journalisme qui sont souvent là d'une année à l'autre et qui sont présents ce soir. John Lashinger, Carole Van Ryn, Tim Southam et Patrick Martin. Merci d'être ici ce soir.
And we would be remiss if we didn't thank those who came before us, including some of the legends in the field who have awards named after them, and the generous individuals and organizations who are sponsoring these awards. We will show a short video before the award when their name is presented. And we'd also like to thank the family members and friends of these legends who are here tonight: John Lassinger, Carol Van Ryn, Tim Southam, and Patrick Martin.
Et donc, au nom du Conseil des gouverneurs, Paul et moi vous remercie sincèrement d'être ici ce soir à Montréal surtout pendant une game numéro 3 de la série. Et pour répondre à la question de Gabriel, c'est 1-0 Washington, malheureusement.
I'll just keep it short and sweet. On behalf of the NNA Board of Governors, I'd like to thank all of you, even those who aren't Hab fans. There are some, right? For being here tonight for this celebration of journalistic excellence.
Je vais donc demander à tout le monde d'être le plus bref possible, pas seulement parce qu'on veut voir la fin du match, mais parce qu'on a quand même 25 prix à remettre ce soir. Donc, le plus bref possible pour que le spectacle aille rondement. Et si jamais on s'en va en temps supplémentaire, peut-être qu'on aura le temps de voir la game.
Okay, this is the point where I say, don't make me bring my teacher voice out, okay? Please, I'd ask everyone in advance to keep your conversations to a minimum, to keep the show progressing quickly, and out of respect for the finalists. Last year's show, very well behaved in Toronto, in bed early. We will be well behaved here and in bed late. Okay.
I like that. Thank you so much, Paul. Et maintenant, place à la cérémonie avec notre tout premier prix.
And now on with the show.
Richie Astley, Toronto Star. Toronto Star culture reporter Richie Astley has a gift for turning his subjects' personal stories into universal reflections on identity, resilience, and belonging. His rich body of work spanned the childhood memories of a Juno-winning singer honored on a postage stamp, an artist struggling to reignite creative passion in dark times, and a grieving musician wrestling with faith and trust. Through vivid storytelling and deep empathy, Astley connects individual triumphs and struggles to larger themes of loss, purpose, and passion that resonate with us all. Judges said, at a time when division often dominates the conversation, his writing reveals the shared emotions that transcend race, culture, and class, reminding us of our collective humanity. Charles-Éric Blais-Poulain et Jean Siag, La Presse. Lorsque les deux plus grands conglomérats médiatiques du Québec ont commencé à prendre des participations financières dans tous les domaines, des maisons de production indépendantes aux installations de post-production et de location, les journalistes de la presse Charles-Éric Blais-Poulain et Jean Siag ont passé 2 mois à enquêter sur l'impact de cette situation sur la communauté concernée. Ils se sont entretenus avec des artistes, des producteurs et des artisans, plusieurs n'osant pas s'exprimer ouvertement, et ils ont dévoilé les conséquences effrayantes de cette situation. Bell et Québecor contrôlent désormais une part de plus en plus importante de l'industrie, et avec elle une plus grande part de l'argent public. La province a réagi en créant un groupe de travail sur l'avenir de la production télévisuelle et cinématographique. Les juges ont déclaré que les journalistes ont habilement exposé la lente érosion de la production indépendante dans un climat d'inquiétude insidieuse. Tavia Grant, The Globe and Mail. In 2022, the Globe and Mail's Tavia Grant was part of a delegation that viewed some of the cultural items in the Vatican's archives. The artifacts originated from indigenous communities in what is now Canada. Among them, a 200-year-old wampum belt and a West Coast ancestral sun mask. Church officials claim the items were gifted to the Holy See. Others see them as the acquired spoils of an empire. Despite promises of restitution and the Pope's blessing, Grant revealed that 2 years later nothing had changed, even though the return of such items is crucial to healing and cultural resurgence. Judges praised Grant's exhaustive research. They called the submission exemplary.
Before I hand out the award, I'm told it's now 1-1 in the game. So, le gagnant est Tavia Grant, the Globe and Mail.
Thank you. It is wonderful to have this first and get it over with. We can relax after this. Thank you for the mic reminder. These stories obviously wouldn't exist without the people who took the time to speak with me, the generosity of their time. And one of them was a residential school survivor that I spoke with, Kuduka Terry Brown, and she called Repatriation Restoring the Balance. So I took those words to heart. They were my inspiration, and I wanted to thank everybody I spoke with for reminding me of the importance of holding the powerful to account when it comes to promises made and promises unfulfilled. Thank you to David Walmsley for creating the space for us to do good journalism. I wanted to shout out tonight, the NNAs don't have a category for editors, but editors are what makes our work sing, and they're the unsung heroes. So I will get to you. To Micah Taub and Greg MacArthur, who made this work readable, wise suggestions, and editing prowess. Thank you to our most wonderful arts editor, Judith Pereira. This is shared with you. Your incredible, infectious enthusiasm and commitment to these stories were instrumental. You gave them room to breathe. You put so much energy into creating a visually impactful package. Thank you so much, and I want to give a shout out to arts coverage generally, because in these troubled times, I feel like arts, music, literature, it's balm for our soul. So thank you to all the arts writers and people who are producing arts coverage. And lastly, to my family, thank you for putting up with me when I'm completely stressed out. Thanks.
Michael D. Adder, the Chronicle Herald and the Globe and Mail. Using his distinctive pen and ink cross-hatching style, Michael D. Adder's cartoons for the Chronicle Herald and the Globe and Mail cause readers to laugh out loud, to smile, and to think. His portfolio brilliantly summarized months of political events in the United States and their impact on Canada-US relations. His reference to an iconic scene from The Godfather helped readers to instantly understand power dynamics and negotiation tactics with an economy of words. Judges said his cartoons offered a sharp and entertaining commentary on what the past months have been and what is yet to come. Gabrielle Drolet, The Globe and Mail. With its bold imagery and accessible style, Gabrielle Drolet's work for the Globe and Mail stands out. She engages her audience in their various roles: voters, citizens, and consumers. Where many cartoonists lampoon public figures, Drolet focuses on the average person's perspective. She offers playful and at times challenging insights on issues ranging from high grocery prices to the impact of student protests. Judges said, through her nuanced but pointed cartoons, she invites readers into a conversation, one that continues well beyond the printed page. Patrick Lamontagne, Calgary Herald, Calgary Sun. Patrick Lamontagne's work for the Calgary Herald, Calgary Sun offers proof that an image really can be worth 1,000 words. With his consistent wit and artistic style, he skillfully tackles thought-provoking themes, from fortune to pitfall in provincial and federal politics to foreign influence of the seediest kind. Each cartoon quickly and skillfully conveys its intended message with humor and maturity, accessible to a wide audience. Judges said, the best editorial cartoons typically spark a laugh, create debate, or cause an involuntary shudder. Lamontagne's work hits the mark on all three.
Et le gagnant? Je vais réussir. Michael D. Adder.
Bonjour, hello. I was hoping for Gabrielle, like everybody else. I don't mean it like I appreciate being up here. I've been nominated like 8 times. I've won once, which is fine by me. I'm 58, you know. I don't need an NNA anymore, but I appreciate it. I totally, hey, listen, I love getting it. I'll take it home. I'll cherish it. I'll hold it as my own. But speaking of, so Sue Dewar worked for the Ottawa Sun forever, worked under the shadow of Andy Donato. She was an excellent cartoonist, and she could, like no other person, she could do funny. It was just funny work. Ingrid Rice, another cartoonist, worked in Vancouver her whole life as a freelance. She appeared in every newspaper. When I first started, she was my age, but, or she is my age. By the time I was 28, I was in any newspaper. She was in everything. Anita Kuntz, celebrated in the United States as one of the great illustrators, but also she was also a political cartoonist. None of them were nominated, but they were all just as good as every male cartoonist I ever met. And unfortunately, none of them were nominated. But I would like to point out that I'm very happy that Gabrielle was nominated alongside me, along with Patrick Lamontagne. Usually I'm funny, but I just wanted to say a few things about 3 of the best cartoonists that I know, and 4, Gabrielle as well. So that's it.
Le prix Claude Ryan pour l'éditorial rend hommage à un homme qui a eu une grande influence dans le monde du journalisme au Québec. Claude Ryan a été un directeur de grand renom du journal Le Devoir, avant de devenir leader du Parti libéral du Québec et, à ce titre, chef du camp du non lors du référendum de 1980 sur la souveraineté. Ce prix est commandité par Le Devoir. Stéphanie Gramont, La Presse. Les éditoriaux de Stéphanie Gramont pour La Presse invitent les lecteurs à se joindre à certaines des conversations les plus importantes de notre époque. En 2024, elle a notamment publié des éditoriaux sur le conflit de travail à Air Canada et sur les problèmes liés au plan à long terme du Québec pour fournir des logements et des soins à sa population vieillissante. Elle a également commenté avec clairvoyance une 2e présidence Trump dont elle a dit qu'elle devrait servir de signal d'alarme pour le Canada, qui doit élaborer une véritable politique militaro-industrielle pour stimuler l'innovation et résoudre ses problèmes de productivité. Les juges ont dit que les éditoriaux de Stéphanie Gramont se distinguent par leur esprit critique, leur écriture lyrique et leur capacité à éduquer. Peter McKnight, Toronto Star. Peter McKnight's editorials for the Toronto Star cut to the heart of systemic failure and injustice by focusing on those impacted most. His portfolio of work explained how social isolation, inadequate housing, and unavailability of palliative care may lead to growing requests for medical assistance in dying. How overcrowded housing and poor access to health care has created a disparity between Inuit people and the rest of Canadians. And how allowing Ontario police to unilaterally decide who to charge has led to an overcharging of people who are disproportionately Black and Indigenous. Judges said, McKnight's language is clear and compelling, his research on point. Richard Warnica, Toronto Star. In his editorials for the Toronto Star, Richard Warnica combines journalistic rigor, narrative skill, and social impact. His piece on the strip-searching of children in Ontario youth detention centres sheds light on a little-known and troubling practice. His editorial on the Jasper wildfires was a powerful plea for human responsibility in the face of climate change. And his tribute to swimmer Penny Alexiak moved beyond sports reporting to explore the fragility of Olympic glory and the impact of an athlete on national identity. Judges said Warnike's editorials stand out for their compelling arguments, evocative style, and commitment to raising public awareness.
Now my script is all mixed up because Michael stole it. Get it? Oh, I even lost a page. This is bad. Okay, so the winner is, I don't know if I'll have the right winner now. Peter McKnight.
I'm sure he'll be very pleased.
Greg Mercer, Nancy MacDonald, and Simon Haupt, The Globe and Mail. The scale of Canada soccer's broken culture, leadership failures, and penchant for cheating is laid bare in this submission by Greg Mercer, Nancy MacDonald, and Simon Haupt for The Globe and Mail. They used the spy scandal at the Paris Olympics as an impetus for the series, which demands accountability and exposes the deep rot within a cherished women's soccer program. The journalism is rigorous, every confidential statement corroborated. The writing is clear and direct. Judges said, in detailing the sweeping damage done to people, players, and this nation's reputation on the pitch, the impact of this investigative work is undeniable and enduring. Paige Taylor White, Indigenews. Tears, frustration, and gratitude, as the Indigenews headline stated, were all vividly on display in words and pictures in this three-part series by photojournalist Paige Taylor White. She took readers inside both the dressing room and the emotions of the East Vancouver women's basketball team All My Relations as they competed in the 64th annual All-Native Basketball Tournament in Prince Rupert. From pre-tournament hair braiding to the post-tournament sense of loss, the series took readers on an emotional journey. Judges said, it provides a stunning example of the ability of sports to bring communities and people together. Ken Warren and Tony Caldwell, Ottawa Citizen, Ottawa Sun. Every day, Tom Heyerdahl puts on a bathing suit and heads to Britannia Beach, where he swims in a 25-meter lane he carved out of the ice with an axe and saw. It's all about living up to a promise he made to his dying wife in 2016. In their feature for the Ottawa Citizen, Ottawa Sun, Ken Warren and Tony Caldwell share the intricate and moving details of one man's devotion and healing, as well as the science of swimming in frigid waters. Accompanied by striking photos and videos, judges said, the reader is left with an emotional story of perseverance and strength, elements that are essential to the very best sports reporting.
Et le gagnant dans la catégorie sport, Greg Mercer, Nancy MacDonald, and Simon Haupt.
Wow, merci beaucoup. Simon and Nancy had a meeting before I arrived to elect me to speak tonight, so you're stuck with me. This is an incredible honor, and what a privilege it is to be here to celebrate our industry. Thank you to the judges for this recognition, and we want to acknowledge the fine work of the other nominees in this category. We're really lucky at the Globe and Mail to have the editors that we do. Stories like this don't happen in a matter of days. This was months and months of work. They backed us at every turn. People like Greg MacArthur and Wendy Cox and Jamie Ross and James Keller and David Walmsley. Without that kind of backing, we can't do this work. And they encouraged us to keep digging, to keep at it. There were many times when we thought we wouldn't have much to show for this, but this is a reminder to us, I think, about the value of persistence and patience in journalism. And finally, I would just say thank you to our sources who trusted us to tell these stories. It took some convincing, and they did it out of a concern about what they saw happening at Canada Soccer, and they wanted that story told. So thank you.
Nathan Dennett, the Canadian Press. It was August 5th, and Nathan Dennett of the Canadian Press was in Saint-Quentin-en-Yvelines, France, to photograph men's team pursuit at the 2024 Summer Olympic Games. The Canadian cyclists are in the foreground, but the image shows us more than that. Judges praised the framing of the photo, as well as Dennett's approach, saying it was a great way to illustrate the high-speed team event. Judges said, "Some may question why the cyclists aren't in perfect focus, but the movement of the cyclists adds to the overall picture of speed." Frank Gunn, the Canadian Press. It isn't unusual to see flips and jumps in sports, but it is in football. And judges thought this image by Frank Gunn of the Canadian Press captured the moment perfectly. Toronto Argonauts receiver Dejan Brissett was upended by Winnipeg's Tyrell Ford during the first half of the 111th Grey Cup at BC Place. The Argos would go on to win 41-24. Judges said, in a high-stakes game, with the player almost making eye contact with his opponent, this illustrated the sport of football well. Olivier Jean, La Presse. On ne s'attendait pas à ce que l'équipe canadienne masculine de relais 4x100 mètres remporte l'or aux Jeux olympiques l'été dernier. L'équipe avait été la plus lente en finale et son pilier André de Grasse souffrait d'une blessure à la cuisse. Après qu'il ait franchi en tête la ligne d'arrivée stupéfiant le monde entier, Olivier Jean de La Presse a pu capter un moment de joie spontanée entre de Grasse et Aaron Brown. Les juges ont déclaré « C'est très net et magnifiquement exposé ». De plus, le cadrage est parfait, le V ou le cœur au milieu du cadre amplifiant le message de la victoire.
J'ai failli montrer le nom du gagnant, ou de la gagnante, il n'y a pas de gagnant. Le gagnant est mon meilleur Olivier Jean.
Merci au jury, ça me touche beaucoup, beaucoup. Je remercie mes patrons, David, Jean-François, François, de m'avoir fait confiance pour aller couvrir ces jeux-là. To Frank and Nathan, I've been a great fan of your work since many years. It was an honor to have my name along you guys tonight. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
As you might have noticed, there's a lot of François at La Presse. I think it's a prerequisite to work to be a director. So, pour présenter le prochain prix, je voudrais accueillir Brent Jolly, membre du CCJ et président de l'Association canadienne des journalistes.
merci tout le monde pour être ici à Montréal ce soir. J'aimerais bien introduire, avant d'introduire le prix de Bob Levin pour cette année, j'aimerais dire un petit mot, et je veux le dire en anglais parce que les personnes responsables sont des anglophones. I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you so much to our 3 incredible staff people who have helped bring us here together this evening. Bev Wake is in the corner. I'm not sure where Andrea is, but Andrea Samus is excellent at everything she does. And also Amanda Hansen, who is new with the NNA group. Thank you.
Le prix Bob Levin pour le reportage bref honore un véritable réviseur de rédaction. Bob Levin comprenait la puissance d'une histoire qu'on raconte, mais aussi la nuance du choix de chacun des mots. Réservé, attentif et avisé, Bob Levin était le genre de réviseur que tout journaliste souhaite. Quelqu'un qui peut vous aider à trouver une expression pour votre article dans un ton que vous n'aviez jamais pensé imaginer. Ce prix est commandité par le Globe and Mail.
Dakshana Bhaskar-Murthy, The Globe and Mail. The idea of a humorless security guard monitoring tourists on the rocks at Peggy's Cove might indeed be peak Canadiana. Judges said Dakshana Bhaskar-Murthy of The Globe and Mail perfectly captures the absurdity inherent in the summer scene. Bhaskar-Murthy's feature, artfully punctuated with the sound of the guard's shrill whistle, weaves together backtalk from tourists, sneaky selfies, and wistful nostalgia. It even includes data, such as the number of daily interactions between tourists and guards. Her writing exposes a range of human experiences: enchantment, anger, entitlement, and sheepishness. Judges said Bhaskar-Murthy made use of closely observed details to deliver a beautifully executed slice of life. Jordan Himmelfarb, Toronto Star. Jordan Himmelfarb of the Toronto Star begins his skillful feature on the 5th hour of the 14th game of a World Championship chess match in Singapore that had ground on for nearly a month. Judges said they were immediately hooked. The story of Gukesh Damaraju's win at 18 does more than give sports writing treatment to a competition that doesn't draw a lot of coverage. Judges said Himmelfarb stayed out of the way of the story and showed an uncanny eye for detail while traversing geopolitics, mental health, celebrity, and demographics, ultimately landing on something more meaningful than a game of chess. Naomi Skwarna, Toronto Star. In her feature for the Toronto Star, Naomi Skwarna invites readers to reimagine their daily routines by noticing the often overlooked art around them. Her story centers on Joyce Whelan's large-scale quilt, Barren Ground Caribou, which for 46 years has held pride of place in Toronto's Spadina subway station. But judges said its message extends to any form of public art: a poem on a bus shelter, a sound installation in a parking garage, or a mosaic in a sidewalk. In a tightly crafted, evocative piece of writing, Skwarna suggests public art can hold important messages for those who choose to stop and look.
Okay, drum roll, please. Le gagnant ou la gagnante est Jordan Himmelfarb, Toronto Star.
Thank you to the judges. Congrats to my fellow nominees. I want to thank Robin Honderick for harassing me into writing this piece and also for arguing about my analysis of the game quite usefully. I want to thank Alex McKean for holding down the opinion fort so well while I was moonlighting as a chess reporter. I want to thank Grant Ellis and Nicole McIntyre for being good colleagues and good pals, and especially I want to thank my wife Ivy and my daughter Margot. When I told them that I wanted to spend 2 years traveling the world watching chess so that I could write a book on top of my day job, they didn't leave me. I'm a lucky guy.
Le prochain prix sera présenté par Eden Finday, membre du conseil du CCJ et éditrice d'NGD News. On l'attend, ça sera pas long.
The Joan Hollobon Award for Beat Reporting honors a woman who set the standard for what beat reporting should be. As the Globe and Mail's medical reporter from 1959 to 1985, Joan Hollobon developed expertise that allowed her to tackle breaking news, investigative pieces, and explanatory articles with equal ease. As one of the first women on the medical beat, she blazed the trail for generations to follow. The award is sponsored by the Globe and Mail. Kate Allen, Toronto Star. Climate change may be the story of our time, but it's a story Canadians often tire of hearing. That's why Kate Allen's submission from the Toronto Star matters. Applying a data specialist's rigor and a storyteller's eye, she explains how warm winters are depleting Canada's vast reserves of maple syrup, how vintners are redefining local winemaking, how the Toronto Zoo is reimagining itself as a conservation and climate change organization, and how while climate change compromises our grocery carts, the billionaire family behind our largest grocer chain is trying to build a better strawberry. Judges said Allen found a way to make us sit up, smile, and pay attention. Her stories were well-researched, well-written, and had serious impact. Susan Claremont, Hamilton Spectator. As the only journalist to follow up on serial killer Paul Bernardo's parole hearing last year, the Hamilton Spectator's Susan Claremont had a scoop. Bernardo no longer blamed ex-wife Carla Homolka for his behavior, but instead blames his parents. In another article on the court beat, Claremont obtained the records of a man who killed his mother and detailed the shocking lack of psychiatric care he'd received in the years leading up to the homicide. She also unraveled the history of a man who spent 14 years hiding millions of dollars from his ex-wife and children. Judges said her cultivation of sources, understanding of law, and meticulous research allow her to go above and beyond daily coverage. Danielle Renaud, La Presse. Depuis près de 30 ans, dont 12 ans à la presse, Danielle Renaud couvre la crime organisé. Il s'est bâti un impressionnant réseau de contacts qui lui permet de dresser des portraits précis, équilibrés et sans complaisance du monde criminel. Cette année, il a notamment réalisé des reportages sur les liens de plus en plus étroits entre les Hells Angels et le crime organisé au Mexique, sur les violentes attaques contre les Hells Angels par des trafiquants indépendants liés à des gangs de rue, et un profil inédit de Frédéric Silva, tueur à gages, responsable de plusieurs meurtres à Montréal et devenu informateur par la suite. Au cours de son enquête, Renaud a découvert que Silva avait mis sa tête à prix pour 100 000 $. Les juges ont dit que la compréhension qu'a Renaud des rouages des gangs est fondamentale pour ses lecteurs.
Et le gagnant ou la gagnante est Susan Claremont, Hamilton Spectator.
Thank you so much. This time last night, I was sitting in a very tiny historical courthouse in Cayuga as a jury came back with 2 guilty verdicts in a murder trial. The murder of OPP Constable Greg Purchala. So I'm a little tired today and a little emotional, so forgive me. For me, the story always starts in the courtroom, but it doesn't end there. I'm grateful to my team at The Spectator for letting me spend 5 weeks covering a trial every single day like I did in Cayuga. And taking what I learned from that trial and bringing it back out into the world to talk about things like gun crime and bail reform and Indigenous rights. But sometimes the stories work the other way, and it's our job as journalists to sometimes do the teaching and explain to people who work within the justice system, right from the person who works at the front wicket at the courthouse all the way up to trial judges, what the open court principle is about, and that we have a right to be there and a right to report, and the public has a right to see what's going on in our justice system. And thank God we have the ability to do that. As I watch what's going on in America right now with their court system, ours isn't perfect, but so long as we have reporters fighting the good fight, I have hope for our justice system and for democracy in Canada, and I am very honored to receive this award. And also congratulations to the other nominees. Thank you so much.
Donc, pour la suite des choses, j'invite Paul Simon à venir présenter les 2 prochains prix. He's going to give out the 2 next awards.
The Stuart M. Robertson Award for Breaking News pays tribute to one of Canada's top media lawyers who provided pre-publication legal advice to editors for decades. He was renowned among senior editors for his dedication to finding a way to publish information of public interest, even in the face of potential legal obstacles. Stuart M. Robertson was also the longtime Secretary-Treasurer and volunteer legal counsel of the National Newspaper Awards. The award is sponsored by Paul and Lorraine Woods. The Globe and Mail. It was a defining story of the Paris Olympics. Canada's women's soccer team, the defending champions, caught using a drone to spy on an opponent. Led by a 6-person team in Paris, the Globe and Mail obtained court records and spoke to prosecutors to advance key revelations. That the drone operator wasn't a rogue actor, but a senior Canada soccer staffer in communication with an assistant coach. That head coach Bev Priestman knew about it and had been suspended. That it was part of a larger operation not limited to the women's team or Paris. That Canadians were shocked, angered, ashamed. Judges said the journalists demonstrated remarkable resourcefulness and determination while tackling the additional challenge of reporting from a foreign country. The Globe and Mail. The Jasper wildfires were the biggest story in the country last summer, and the Globe and Mail covered it from all angles. While journalists worked remotely from Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, and Toronto, others were dispatched to Hinton and Valemount as evacuees sought refuge in nearby towns. They spoke to dozens of residents and visitors who had fled for their lives, sharing their heartbreaking stories, videos, and photos. Away from the fire, reporters looked at the economic implications of the blaze, who was to blame for it, and why Jasper is such a beloved destination. Judges said, this team of reporters kept many informed, while also managing to capture the humanity and individual stories of those immediately devastated by the fire. Toronto Star.
The newsroom was dark and powerless. The city was flooded. Cars were stranded on the highway. But journalists at the Toronto Star were working furiously to give readers all the information they needed about the summer storm that would leave hundreds of millions of dollars in damages in its wake. The minute-to-minute coverage met readers wherever they were, mid-commute, in a waterlogged car, in a dark or flooded home. They offered suggestions and provided explainers while documenting the flood in words and images. They also tried to answer a key question: why had this storm kneecapped their city? Judges said this team's ability to provide comprehensive coverage while also working in the throes of outages and local disaster deserves to be recognized.
And the award goes to the Globe and Mail, but which one? Canada's soccer scandal.
This is amazing. Thank you so much. And this is Jamie Ross, our sports editor. And Jamie did an interview in French with the French prosecutor. It was amazing. So anyway, this was a incredible moment. Thank you for sending a massive team. Listen, it was a little stressful in that moment, but a massive team to the Olympics. We were on the ground. Breaking news is, I don't know, there's nothing more exciting than a breaking news event where you're just scrambling. And so thank you to David Walmsley and Andrew Saunders and Sinclair Stewart and, of course, Jamie. And the real backbone of this also was Cahal Kelly, who just owned the whole show. So thank you so much for this. And I will be staying up later than 11.
The John Wesley Dafoe Award for Politics honors the longtime editor of the Winnipeg Free Press, who is often called the greatest Canadian journalist of his time. During his 43 years as editor, the Free Press was considered one of the great newspapers of the world, and John Dafoe's writing was required reading in the corridors of power. This award is sponsored by Ron Stern. Patrice Bergeron, La presse canadienne. C'est une nouvelle choquante qui a rapidement pris de l'ampleur. La coalition Avenir Québec du premier ministre François Legault a été accusée de vendre l'accès à des ministres par le biais d'événements de collecte de fonds politiques tels que des cocktails. Patrice Bergeron de la presse canadienne a révélé que près de la moitié des maires et des préfets du Québec avaient versé près de 100 000 $ au parti entre 2021 et 2023. Les articles de Patrice Bergeron ont fait bouger les choses. Le 1er février 2024, le premier ministre a annoncé que la CAQ allait renoncer aux dons privés, sacrifiant ainsi plusieurs centaines de milliers de dollars. Les juges ont dit que dans les nouvelles reliées à la politique, on recherche l'impact. Tel a été le cas ici et même davantage. Il s'agit d'un reportage exclusif et le travail journalistique est fascinant, convaincant et imparable. Katia Gagnon, La presse. Au bord de l'effondrement après l'élection de 2022, le Parti québécois s'est choisi un nouveau chef en la personne de Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon. En 2 ans, il a hissé le parti au sommet des sondages. Dans son portrait de 5000 mots pour la presse, Katia Gagnon a dévoilé des informations inédites sur le cheminement personnel du nouveau leader. Elle a interrogé pas moins de 20 personnes qui l'ont connu à différents stades. Le jeune homme parfait, avec un parcours académique exceptionnel. L'avocat recruté par les meilleurs cabinets. Le virage vers l'activisme social.
L'homme politique d'abord animé par des convictions fédéralistes qui milite aujourd'hui pour l'indépendance du Québec. Les juges ont déclaré que c'est superbement écrit, tout comme un scénario de film. Rachel Mendelson and R.J. Johnston, Toronto Star. Rachel Mendelson and R.J. Johnston's reporting for the Toronto Star began in Pickering, where a rookie councillor and her supporters had been disrupting council meetings. The Ontario Human Rights Commission was even called in after she denounced Black History Month and the concept of white privilege as racist. Their story moved beyond Pickering, and they revealed how the alt-right movement is disrupting libraries, school boards, and other institutions across Canada. Judges said not only did their reporting reveal the shaky underpinnings of democracy when the alt-right moves in, but also the consequences for politicians, communities, and cities. They said it's a tale everyone needs to read.
And as the editor of the Winnipeg Free Press, it is my distinct honor and privilege to present the John Wesley Dafoe Award for Politics to the Toronto Star.
Thank you. Wow, it's a real honor to be up here for stories we wrote about municipal politics, which don't normally rank, but a lot of us have written about municipal politics. They matter a lot, so that's cool. Thank you so much to my editors who are sitting right here. David Bruiser and Jesse McLean, you're the best. You made every sentence better. You pushed this story to be, well, these three stories to be the best they could be. You are wonderful editors, and I'm so grateful to have had you. Nicole McIntyre, thank you so much for, I don't know where you are, but thank you so much for giving this story big play and for letting me work on this for 6 months. Lots of reporters who work on municipal politics don't get the privilege of diving into one thing for this long amount of time, so thank you so much. And also to Renee Johnson, who's not here tonight. He is an amazing photographer who cleared his schedule to come and be here the whole time. He sat for 4 hours, multiple meetings the whole time. He walked me to my car after, which was awesome because people yelled at us a lot and it was a little bit scary. I'm not sure we made Pickering a better place, but thank you so much for this. I'm really honored.
Zosha Bielski, The Globe and Mail. In resetting the code on HIV and crime, Zosha Bielski of The Globe and Mail offers unique insights into the challenges facing people living with HIV in a world where legislation and courts have not caught up to the medical realities and science. Bielski delves into how Canada still has strict punishments for people who don't disclose their HIV status to sexual partners, while other countries have modernized their legislation to reflect a more science-based approach, essentially eliminating the need to criminalize people living with HIV. Judges said, the story is easy to read, offers solutions, compels the public to action, and helps summarize a complex issue in a manner that doesn't speak down to the reader. Marco Chown Ovid, Steve Russell, and Lance McMillan, Toronto Star. Electric cars have created a vast and complex new economy, and countries and provinces are fighting to be part of it. Ontario is able to attract a critical mass of this new industry and is now an important player in the production chain. In their series, A Great Ontario EV Road Trip, Marco Chown Ovid, Steve Russell, and Lance McMillan of the Toronto Star took an original approach to explaining the different components of this new industry. They took a 2,300-kilometer road trip during the coldest week of the year. Judges called it an informative guide to the industry and how to use an electric car to get around, all wrapped up in a fun road trip. Amy Dempsey Raven, Toronto Star. In an effort to explain Toronto's rat proliferation problem and what to do about it, Amy Dempsey Raven not only interviewed experts, but took the unusual step of trying to become one by enrolling in New York City's 3-day Rodent Academy. She learned from the world's leading rodentologists and went on safari to rat-infested alleyways, sewers, and subway tunnels. Drawing from other cities' experiences, too, she was able to compile a list of effective interventions. Judges called the series well-resourced, entertaining, and engaging. They said, reading about the experience of rats in New York is like watching another city's horror movie, soon to open in your own city, and you can't wait.
I want a drum roll too. Someone did a drum roll. Okay, and the winner is Zasha Bielski.
And I want to start by congratulating all the journalists in this explanatory category. Your work was so readable and so rigorous. I'm a big fan, especially of Amy Dempsey Raven. Not many journalists can combine like your wit as a humorist with such comprehensive reporting. So congratulations to you all. I'd like to thank the Globe for letting me go down this rabbit hole of HIV non-disclosure in Canada. The learning curve was really steep for me with this story. It's a really obscure legal landscape, complex scientific terrain, difficult ethical questions around what we owe each other with disclosure. So thank you for giving me the time and the resources to dive into this. I'd like to recognize those who spoke with me, those who live with HIV, prosecuted and incarcerated for non-disclosure. These are very vulnerable people whose stories and experiences are frequently questioned and judged, so they put themselves on the line here. I also want to acknowledge the human rights lawyers who patiently walked me through 3 decades of convoluted case law, a mess of court rulings, and to the public health analysts who are illuminating how this law really hangs over everybody living with HIV, as infections are skyrocketing in Canada. Finally, I want to thank my editor, Rachel Gisa, for really standing behind this piece, for her integrity with these sources, and also real deep insight into the issue. Rachel is an exceptional editor. She is patient with a deep dive, maybe too patient. She actually cares about what's at stake. She never torques, and she places real trust in the reporters she works with. It makes the process exceptionally meaningful. So thank you for this honor. Appreciate it.
Sammy Cogan, The Globe and Mail. In the aftermath of a devastating shooting in Rexdale, Sammy Cogan of The Globe and Mail captured an image that illustrates the profound grief and human cost of gun violence. Cogan was at a community vigil. One of the attendees was Sophia Dunn, the mother-in-law of victim Seymour Gibbs, a father of 6. When she dropped to her knees in anguish, Cogan instinctively dropped to the ground too, documenting the moment from below. Judges said the expressions of anguish captured in this image are so palpable it's difficult to look away. Carlos Osorio, Reuters. A pro-Palestinian encampment at the University of Toronto last year lasted 60 days, so long the outline of tents were imprinted on the grass. When the encampment was removed on July 3rd, Reuters photojournalist Carlos Osorio understood the need to get up high, to capture not just those imprints, but the resolve of protesters through a defiant message spray-painted on the grass. Judges praised his foresight, editing skills, and creativity. They said an entire story is told in an image in which there isn't a person. That is what makes it so powerful. Jim Wells, Calgary Herald, Calgary Sun. Photos like this are extremely rare and challenging to get. Jim Wells of the Calgary Herald, Calgary Sun was tipped to it by a 2-second mention on the police scanner. There was a deer in the icy Bow River. Once he found the site, he saw a pair of neighbors attempting a rescue. The animal's half-submerged body and the rope around its antlers speak to the precariousness of the situation. Judges were moved by the compassion on display. They said, among so many images of grief and destruction, it's refreshing to be able to document pure kindness.
Et le gagnant, Carlos Osorio.
You might have figured out by now, if you're smart, that I'm not Carlos. I'm just a reporter who worked with him and has become a friend. And Carlos asked me to, under no circumstances, make a speech if he wins. I'm going to defy him and just say that there's a reason that Carlos is every reporter's dream to work with. He's the best, and he really deserves this. So thank you.
Robert Cribb, Max Binks Collier, Massey Halatberry, Charlie Buckley, and Habiba Noshin, Toronto Star, Investigative Journalism Bureau. Every year, for-profit recruiting firms lure thousands of participants to enroll in clinical trials for pills that could one day be sold as treatments. It's a big business and a problematic one. As Robert Cribb, Max Binks Collier, Massey Halatberry, Charlie Buckley, and Habiba Noshin explained for the Toronto Star and Investigative Journalism Bureau. The team heard participants are often exploited, lured by cash, referral bonuses, loyalty points, and other perks to sell their bodies for research. They discovered incentives to lie about pre-existing conditions and side effects in order to get paid. Judges said the strong and engaging reporting exposed unethical behavior against a vulnerable sector of the population with national and potentially international implications. Naimul Karim, Financial Post. Immigration law is complex, even for the most well-informed. In his clearly written and nuanced series for the Financial Post, Naimul Karim successfully explains Canada's changing immigration rules and the intended and unintended consequences. He found people willing to talk about the impact these changes are having on them and the thousands of other international students and highly skilled foreign workers in Canada. Some are so desperate to stay in Canada, they feel they have no choice but to expose themselves to financial and psychological abuse from employers and other bad actors. Judges said, "We were impressed by the accuracy of this series and the unique focus on a Canadian policy that is encouraging bad behavior." Matthew Van Dongen, Hamilton Spectator. For years, Forge & Foster was among Hamilton's flashiest real estate investment firms. They took a fall last year. It began with a scoop by the Hamilton Spectator's Matthew Van Dongen. Residents of a Forge & Foster resort faced eviction because their $200,000 tiny homes were installed without building permits. Subsequent stories revealed similar problems on other properties connected to the Forge & Foster founders, including trailer parks across Ontario and an artist's studio hub meant to kickstart a multi-million-dollar live-work-play film district in Hamilton. Judges said, "We were impressed by the unrelenting focus on the people affected which set this series apart in a field that's often full of profiles of real estate giants.
Et le gagnant est Toronto Star Investigative Journalism Bureau.
Thank you. We should do this in Montreal every year. It's better. I can't thank you enough. This is not the type of story that wins a business award. It is not a classic business story. So I'd like to thank the judges for acknowledging that stories that aren't necessarily typical are worthy of recognition in this category. I want to thank my editors in this story, the Toronto Star, David Bruiser and Jesse McLean here, who made it better. I thank my colleagues at the Investigative Journalism Bureau. This was a massive, impenetrable project. It took a year to do it. Ran up against constant brick walls. It showed a remarkable spirit of persistence and an unwillingness to give up on a story that was in no one's interest to tell, but it has had tremendous impact for which we're tremendously grateful. So thanks to all of you for acknowledging it. Thanks.
Le prix E. Cora Hind pour le reportage à caractère local rend hommage à l'une des pionnières dans les annales du journalisme canadien. E. Cora Hind a été non seulement la première femme à travailler comme reporter, mais elle a aussi participé au mouvement des suffragettes contribuant à la lutte pour que les femmes obtiennent le droit de vote.
Aaron Beswick, The Chronicle Herald. It could have been a dry story about the bureaucratic and legal woes plaguing Nova Scotian fishers. Instead, Aaron Beswick's investigation on the ongoing battle over juvenile eel and lobster for the Chronicle Herald achieves all the hallmarks of remarkable storytelling. A record of community conflict and crime, including shootings and arson, compelling sources, concerted efforts to create transparency and hold powers to account. Beswick made it a national issue, leading the House of Commons Standing Committee on Fisheries to hold emergency hearings and grill officials from the Dafoe on their failure to crack down on illegal fishing. His stories were quoted by MPs. Judges called it a masterful example of community journalism. Tyler Olson, Fraser Valley Current. When Black Press, owner of dozens of local papers across Western Canada, filed for creditor protection last year, Fraser Valley Current editor Tyler Olson launched an in-depth investigation. Displaying deep knowledge of the company, the newspaper industry, and the business behind the headlines, he uncovered the disquieting story of an overly ambitious publisher brought to his knees by a bad bet on a daily paper in the United States. Those paying the price were small communities, their newspapers, and hard-working reporters in Canada. Judges praised his approach to an important story. They said small communities across Canada rely on their local newspapers for stories that matter to them, not what's being published in distant cities. Julia Peterson, Saskatoon Star-Phoenix. The horrific stabbings that claimed 11 lives on James Smith Cree Nation and the nearby community of Weldon in 2022 was one of Canada's deadliest massacres. For Saskatoon Star-Phoenix reporter Julia Peterson, covering the tragedy and seeking out grieving families for reaction prompted questions about whether they wanted to keep working in journalism. Rather than leave, they committed their reporting to serving the communities they covered. When inquests into the stabbings unfolded over 5 weeks in 2024, Peterson was there for every heartrending moment. Judges said Peterson used the bonds they had built with survivors to produce a series of stories that packed an emotional punch and helped them to achieve badly needed closure.
Et le gagnant est Aaron Beswick.
It's a real privilege and honor to be here with you guys. And to Tyler and Julie, I read your work and it blew me away. And so just being in the same category as you guys. So thanks so much. I really appreciate this.
McKenna Hart and Tanya Pereira, Toronto Star. Inspired by the friendship bracelets worn by every Taylor Swift fan last year, Toronto Star designer McKenna Hart and producer Tanya Pereira took readers on a unique jaunt. They integrated mountains of data, milestones, and social media shoutouts in bright Swiftie style. They also took us inside the native environment of Toronto's top influencers with social media-inspired design. And in TTC Wrapped, they brought the struggles of writership into sharp focus, transforming what could have been an ordinary story into an immersive experience. Judges said each story was buoyed by imaginative design choices, perfect tone, creative navigation, and felt distinct in its visual storytelling. Timothy Moore, Globe and Mail. In his stories for the Globe and Mail, Timothy Moore expertly weaved video, interactive elements, and innovative design to capture the energy of sports and the human stories behind it. In the Win in Wind, he took readers to the water, showing how science can give sailors a competitive edge. Drop the Beat offered an electric dive into breaking's Olympic debut, using video to demonstrate how an artistic medium can become a scored sport. In Search of Pop paired striking photography and video with a thoughtful narrative on how to master skating later in life. Judges said Moore's work breaks new ground in digital storytelling and how audiences experience it. Pascal Roux, La Presse. Le portfolio de Pascal Roux pour La Presse va de la beauté saisissante à l'horreur tragique. Dans chaque cas, il entraîne intimement le public au sein d'histoires et de contextes spécifiques. En mettant l'accent sur les photos et en minimisant le texte dans l'horreur et des champs de ruines, il a mis à nu les pertes et les destructions dévastatrices à Gaza. Il a mis en lumière le mystère entourant les vestiges d'un naufrage du 19e siècle qui se sont échoués sur les côtes de Terre-Neuve. Il a même aidé les lecteurs à célébrer le 50e anniversaire de Donjons et Dragons en présentant les personnages, les joueurs qui leur donnent vie et la communauté qu'ils créent. Les juges ont déclaré que le travail de Pascal Roux oblige le public à prêter attention en l'enveloppant dans son immédiateté.
Et le gagnant, Timothy Moore. Ça, on a...
Thank you very much. I just want to thank my sort of co-designers on mostly everything I do, Chris Manza and Jeremy Agius. We kind of work on each other's stories often, and these wouldn't be anything without them, so thanks to them. Thanks to Jamie Ross, Daniel Webb, and Matt Frainer for all of the support they've provided over the years for this type of work. And I think to the Globe at large, just because, you know, there's a general tolerance for blowing up like established forms and letting us sort of figure out how to put it back together. And you know, like Matt originally said to me, I asked him like, how do I do this? Like, I don't know, in 2017. He's like, I don't know, just do it how you do anything else. So there's time and just a general tolerance for figuring out how a story should be formatted. And I'm very grateful for that space. So thank you very much.
Gord Howard, Shan Shan Tian, Krista Klassen, Andrea Gray, and Corey LaRocque. Nunatsiaq News. In April 2024, a group of young people from Igloolik headed out to follow the Nunavut Quest, a dog sled race lasting 10 days and traversing 370 kilometers of Arctic landscape and frozen waters. They took Nunatsiaq News readers with them. It was a partnership between the newspaper and educational consultant Shan Shan Tian, who put together a field course to have young Inuit student reporters document the race. They filed stories and photos daily, giving readers the opportunity to follow the race in a rare, on-the-ground, day-by-day way. Led by Gord Howard, Krista Klassen, Andrea Gray, and Corey LaRocque in the newsroom, the coverage culminated in the creation of a 20-page commemorative edition in English and Inuktitut. Judges enjoyed the collaboration and applauded the documenting of an important Inuit tradition. Venus Ho, Cece Choi, Henry Wong, Cliff Yao, and Norman Sin. Sing Tao. Mooncakes are a traditional pastry and a staple of Chinese communities each fall. They are also at the heart of this entry by Venus Ho, Cece Chui, Henry Wong, Cliff Yao, and Norman Sin of Sing Tao. Their month-long investigation revealed that mooncakes labeled and sold in Canada as products of Hong Kong actually came from producers in mainland China. Hong Kong companies contacted by Sing Tao suspected their brands had been stolen and misused in products on Canadian shelves. Judges applauded the reporting, which involved registry searches in both Canada and Asia. They said the entry strikes at the heart of multiple issues facing Canada's diaspora community: consumer trust in products aimed at minority populations, misinformation and labeling, and ultimately, cultural identity. Sing Tao. Sing Tao has led coverage of Canada's lifeboat immigration scheme, which helped a wave of Hong Kong residents settle in Canada as Chinese authorities cracked down on pro-democracy rallies, free speech, and political opposition. Last year, they kept readers up to date on developments, focusing on the experiences of immigrants trying to obtain permanent residency, particularly illegal stayers whose working visas had expired or were at risk of expiring. Advocates and experts added depth to the coverage, leading the federal government to offer clear policy guidance on lifeboat program issues and accelerate the processing of delayed cases. Judges praised the focus and said Sing Tao brought peace of mind to the Hong Kong immigrant community in Canada.
Les gagnants: Venus Ho, Cece Chow, Henry Wong, Cliff Yao, Norman Sin.
Thank you for this CNN for this award, which means so much to me. It not only recognizes the value of investigative reporting, but also the efforts of us as a journalist to record the truth. Before coming to Canada, I was a journalist in Hong Kong, where it was very difficult to do investigative reporting. For example, Bao Choi, a former RTHK reporter, was prosecuted by the government simply for investigating license planes. So I'm very fortunate to be able to continue my journalistic work in a free and safe environment overseas. I'm also very thankful to my supervisors. Some of them are former supervisors who has been detained in Hong Kong. My first job as a reporter was at Apple Daily, where I learned that no matter the circumstances, we should be brave to ask questions, tell the truth, and speak up for the powerless, because we represent the readers, and which served as a watchdog over those in power. After it was forced to shut down, I joined Star News, which taught me to be straight about fact-checking news and not to mislead readers in any way. And now I'm glad to have an opportunity to continue my work here. So I'm receiving this award. I would like to thank those who have helped me grow along this way, especially my supervisors who certified their freedom and my supervisors in Canada who teach me a lot. So I hope that all my fellow journalists, wherever they may be, remain safe and free. Together we say brave wherever we are. Thank you.
Le prix Norman Webster pour le reportage international rend hommage à un homme qui a eu une carrière influente remarquable au Globe and Mail. On se souvient plus particulièrement de Norman Webster pour sa couverture de la diplomatie du ping-pong au début des années 1970, quand les relations ont commencé à s'ouvrir entre la Chine et l'Occident. Ce prix est commandité par la famille Webster. Kim Bolan, Vancouver Sun, The Province. Veteran reporter Kim Bolan of the Vancouver Sun, The Province, traveled to Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, and Southeast Asia to uncover the international reach of BC's criminal organizations. She looked at illicit drugs being smuggled into Australia and New Zealand out of the port of Vancouver, the role of British Columbians in the international drug trade, and the personal impact of drug addiction on the people of Fiji. With her incredible network of sources, Bolan was able to unravel complicated schemes and complex networks. Judges said these stories show the power of her written word, with politicians calling for the restoration of port police and updated legislation to counter transnational organized crime and interrupt the illicit drug supply. Jean-Thomas Léveillé, La Presse. Jean-Thomas Léveillé a pris un risque en croyant pouvoir atterrir au Guyana et comprendre comment la corruption et la soif de pétrole ont faussé le jeu d'une démocratie autrefois prometteuse. Il y parvient magnifiquement, et les photos d'Hugo Sébastien Aubert, qui nous ouvrent les yeux, nous aident à comprendre pourquoi cette histoire est si tragique. En matière d'environnement, la plupart des Canadiens sont en état d'alerte. Nous connaissons les sables bitumineux, les batailles à propos d'oléoducs et la fonte des calottes glaciaires. Ce que Jean-Thomas Léveillé a réussi à faire, c'est de comprendre la peine des citoyens d'un pays pauvre attirés par l'éclat de ce qui s'avère être de faux rêves de prospérité. Les juges ont déclaré que même si la Guyana n'a jamais fait partie de nos préoccupations, elle le fait maintenant grâce à Jean-François Léveillé et Hugo Sébastien Aubert. Mark McKinnon, The Globe and Mail. The Globe and Mail's Mark McKinnon leverages deep relationships of trust built over years to connect readers with the horror and humanity of the war in Ukraine. His profile of an elite unit of Ukrainian soldiers begins in Kabul during the daring rescue of the Globe and Mail's Afghan translators in 2021 as the city fell under Taliban control. McKinnon follows the fighters over the years to now as they face impossible decisions on battlefields at home. His two other pieces lay bare the impact of Russia's aggression on the lives of its own citizens. Judges said the articles are meticulously reported, beautifully told, and a testament to McKinnon's determination to provide a full accounting of the true cost of war.
Et le gagnant dans la catégorie internationale, Mark McKinnon, The Globe and Mail.
Wow, merci à la juge pour cette grande honneur et félicitations à Kim et Jean Thomas pour leur travail excellent. And thank you to my editors for, I dumped like 20,000 words on them one day last April. It wasn't an article, it wasn't a book, it was nothing. And so David Walmsley, Sinclair Stewart, Angela Murphy, Ian Bokoff, and Lisan Jutras turned this lump of text into something that I think we're all proud of. And thank you to Andrew Saunders and to David Thompson for, not just for publishing a special section on that, but for paying my sometimes strange receipts. But obviously I have to thank the people I came to know as the Kabul team, the men and women who rescued the Globe and Mail's translators from Afghanistan in 2021 and then let me cover the war through their eyes. And in particular, a young man named Nazar Borovitsky, who I never got to meet. He rescued my friend and then died trying to rescue his own. And that's a debt, obviously, I can never repay, so I'll keep saying his name, Nazar Borovitsky.
Shane Gross, The Globe and Mail. This humorous close-up of a curious beluga whale in its natural habitat in Churchill, Manitoba, immediately captivates viewers. It's hard to look away from the sharp focus on what appears to be an open-mouthed grin. But this well-composed photo by Shane Gross for the Globe and Mail wasn't easy to get. Judges recognized the challenging shooting situation and year-long preparations, including reading research papers and consulting with scientists that Gross committed to before and during his expedition to photograph whales. David Lipnowski, The Canadian Press. David Lipnowski's well-timed photograph for the Canadian Press captures an unusual group selfie. Two people are giving then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau the finger while he smiles, unaware he's the subject of rude gestures at the Folklorama Festival in Winnipeg. It's technically well done, and judges liked the composition with everyone in profile looking at the phone camera, emphasizing what was going on. They said Lipnowski demonstrated readiness for the unexpected, even at a seemingly ordinary event. Carrie Medig, The Globe and Mail. Carrie Medig's photo of double amputee Alexander Butko for the Globe and Mail tells a great story, highlighting the Wild Bear Vets Nature Therapy Program for injured military veterans. Medig's image employs excellent leading lines, directing the viewer's attention to the main character and then to the other veterans, surrounding scenery and foreground rocks. Judges said the image captures a quiet peace in the soft expressions of the veterans, which contrasts sharply with the violence they endured as soldiers in Ukraine.
Et le gagnant, ou la gagnante, Carrie Medig.
Yeah, I really didn't expect to win this. Really, congratulations to the fellow nominees. Yeah, I live in a really small mountain town in somewhere between Calgary and Vancouver, and it's pretty rare that we get like national and international kind of level stories coming through. So this one just seemed like a perfect fit for the Globe and Mail, and I just really want to thank Claire Vandermeers for believing in this one, and a few other people. She was actually going to read this. She didn't think I was going to be here, but who would pass up a free trip to one of the coolest cities in Canada, right? One of the coolest. So yeah, I'd like to thank Andrew Saunders, David Walmsley, and Liz Solomon as well for green lighting this one. It's kind of, it's so nice to kind of shoot something an hour and a half from my house for once. And also, Of course, I want to thank the veterans from the Ukraine to come to our place. I don't think we realize like how beautiful and healing our environment is, and yeah, we live in a pretty special place, and we shouldn't take it for granted. Thank you.
Le prix Marianne Chad Carey pour la chronique rend hommage à une éditrice de journal du 19e siècle qui a joué un rôle de pionnière. Née aux États-Unis et élevée par des parents noirs libérés qui ont été très actifs pour l'abolition de l'esclavage, Marianne Chad Carey s'est établie dans le sud-ouest ontarien au début des années 1850. Elle y a fondé le Provincial Freeman, un journal de combat pour l'abolition de l'esclavage et la libération complète des personnes ayant été réduites à l'esclavage. La devise du journal était « L'autonomie est la véritable voie vers l'indépendance ».
Vincent Brousseau-Pouliot, La Presse. Dans une série de chroniques franches et incisives, Vincent Brousseau-Pouliot de La Presse décortique la pensée politique appliquée à certaines des questions les plus litigieuses du Québec. La décision de réduire le seuil d'immigration, de dépenser 870 millions de dollars pour un nouveau toit au stade olympique et de refuser à un enseignant étranger hautement qualifié la possibilité d'enseigner alors que la province manque de milliers d'enseignants. Les juges ont dit que Vincent Brousseau-Pouliot souligne le manque de rigueur analytique des dirigeants québécois. Ses chroniques, appuyées avec passion et étayées par des recherches solides, sont un exemple de journalisme à son plus haut niveau. Isabelle Haché, La Presse. Le travail d'Isabelle Haché pour La Presse se distingue par sa profondeur et son humanité. L'an dernier, elle s'est penchée sur les questions morales soulevées sur l'élargissement de l'aide médicale à mourir aux personnes atteintes de démence, les leçons du vol 182 d'Air India et une chronique sur un homme qui a faussement prétendu avoir été abusé par une ex-conjointe afin de recevoir des chèques d'un organisme qui indemnise les victimes d'actes criminels. Les juges ont dit qu'elle expose ses arguments avec force détail, présentant au lecteur des personnes réelles prises dans des circonstances difficiles. Ces chroniques réclament bien haut la justice, remplissant ainsi l'une des plus fières missions du journalisme. Tanya Talaga, The Globe and Mail. Tanya Talaga's columns for the Globe and Mail hold a moral clarity necessary for Canada in this era of reconciliation with Indigenous people. Her call to Canadians to stand against residential school denialism and to the federal government to create funding for research and site searches of residential schools speak to this. So too does her celebration of the life of Murray St. Clair, whom she described as a valiant soldier of conscience, who led Canada to discover it actually had one. Judges said, Talaga's writing is limpid, and her work showcases the ways in which the country can move forward.
Alors, le ou la gagnante, pour la je ne sais combienième fois, Isabelle Haché.
Thank you very, very much. It's a very great honor for me. Thanks to the judges. Congrats to the other nominees. Tanya Talaga, amazing work. Vincent Brousseau-Pouliot. Vraiment, tes chroniques sont tout le temps pleines de rigueur. C'est vraiment extraordinaire de travailler dans ce journal-là. Puis d'ailleurs, je voulais dire, Merci évidemment à mes patrons, François Cardinal, Jean-François Bégin, David Santerre qui sont ici, qui sont toujours là pour nous. Mais aussi, il y a une grosse délégation de la presse ici ce soir, puis j'aimerais les saluer, pas juste les journalistes, mais les journalistes, les photographes, les graphistes. Ça fait presque 30 ans que je suis à la presse, puis vous êtes ma deuxième famille. C'est grâce à vous qu'on fait un journal à tous les jours. C'est comme un petit miracle qu'on fait ce journal-là, puis c'est tellement un bon journal, puis je suis fière de nous, puis je vous aime. Voilà.
Donc, le prochain prix sera remis par Tim Southam, arrière-petit-fils de William Southam. The next award will be given by Tim Southam, great-great-grandson, maybe handsome grandson, of William Southam. Yeah, Southam. Sorry if I didn't say the name right.
The William Southam Award for Long Feature is in honor of a Canadian newspaper publisher who rose from a 12-year-old paperboy to founder of what became the country's first and largest newspaper group. His name lives on in the William Southam Journalism Fellowships at the University of Toronto's Massey College. This award is sponsored by the Fisher, Bowen, and Balfour families.
Brandon Harder, Regina Leader Post. With striking details and powerful prose, Brandon Harder of the Regina Leader Post lays out the story of an undercover sting operation that netted a confession in a cold case murder. Veering from fast food joints to rural Saskatchewan roads to a fake brothel in a downtown Regina condo, Harder's piece reads like crime fiction. But every bit of it is real. Harder accessed covert audio recordings. He mined details from officer testimony about the suspect's body language, expressions, and manner of dress. He even looked at past weather reports to recreate the conditions. Judges said the originality of approach, the writing style, and the depth of reporting make this a worthy finalist. Emma McIntosh, The Narwhal. On the chilly coast of Lake Superior, the Narwhal's Emma McIntosh set off with a photographer and local guide in an attempt to spot one of a dwindling herd of woodland caribou. As they skim across choppy waters and ramble overland on wooded trails, McIntosh unfolds the story of the once plentiful caribou who have been squeezed into even smaller enclaves through human development, predation by wolves, and competition with deer and moose. Judges said, in northern communities dependent on resource extraction and the environmental disturbance that accompanies it, McIntosh takes on the complex questions of how much can and should be done to save a vulnerable mammal, and at what cost. Anne-Marie Provost, La Presse. L'Arctique a dû s'adapter au changement climatique, et il n'y a pas de meilleure façon de découvrir ces changements qu'à travers l'une des traditions les plus canadiennes, le voyage en voiture. Anne-Marie Provost de La Presse emmène les lecteurs dans une région que la plupart des Canadiens n'auront jamais la chance de visiter. Elle leur présente les enjeux de la région ainsi que ses habitants. Tout d'abord, il y a les habitants qui se sentent chez eux dans l'Arctique. Et puis, il y a les voyageurs qui recherchent l'aventure dans certaines des conditions les plus difficiles au monde. Les juges ont dit qu'à l'heure où nous redéfinissons ce qu'est le Canada, cette candidature nous montre l'étendue du pays et de sa population.
Alors, le gagnant ou la gagnante, Brandon Harder, Regina Leader Post.
So I am not Brandon Harder, but I am. He was unable to attend tonight. But Brandon is a tremendous young journalist in Regina. He worked an incredible number of hours on this story, and
when I asked him this morning what he wanted to say to everybody, just wanted to say thank you. So congratulations to the other nominees. Thank you.
Donc, c'est maintenant le tour de Andrea Houston, membre du conseil du CCJ et directrice de l'information de Ricochet Média, de présenter le prochain prix.
The George Brown Award for Investigations pays tribute to the founder of the Globe, who made it his mission to demand that governments apply both fairness and compliance with constitutional principles. George Brown's Globe of the 1800s set out accusations of corruption and double-dealing, and backed them up with hard evidence. This award honoring investigative journalism that afflicts the comfortable is sponsored by the Globe and Mail. Katrina Clark and Jeff Hamilton, Winnipeg Free Press. In their 6-part, months-long investigation for the Winnipeg Free Press, Katrina Clark and Jeff Hamilton exposed the disturbing realities of childcare in Manitoba. It's a system that prioritizes affordability over quality, is plagued by poor working conditions, and is hampered by a lack of accountability, with hundreds failing to meet minimum health, safety, and operating standards. Through intimate interviews with heartbroken families, dedicated daycare staff, passionate advocates, and leading experts, Clark and Hamilton relentlessly pursued accountability and transparency. Judges said their work is a testament to the belief that every child matters, and that journalism can be a force for change. Robert Cribb, Wendy Ann Clark, Declan Keogh, and Owen Thompson, Toronto Star Investigative Journalism Bureau. The Non-Insured Health Benefits Program is designed to give Inuit and First Nations people mental health coverage not provided by the provinces. In their investigation for the Toronto Star and Investigative Journalism Bureau, Robert Cribb, Wendy Ann Clark, Declan Keogh, and Owen Thompson revealed the program isn't working. Using public records, freedom of information requests, and multiple interviews, they exposed long wait times and a dearth of service providers. They also discovered practitioners with serious offenses or disciplinary infractions in their past, including murder and having sex with a former client. Judges said they uncovered systemic failures and glaring deficiencies in a system meant to provide crucial support. Terry Pender, Waterloo Region Record. Terry Pender's historical exposé for the Waterloo Region Record began more than 6 years ago with a dogged fight for transparency via multiple Freedom of Information requests. It culminated in December, when the media outlet was able to name and shame local individuals and religious organizations tied to a hidden chapter of Canadian history. They had helped bring thousands of Nazi war criminals to Canada after the Second World War, many of them Mennonites and Volksdeutsch from Eastern Europe. Judges said Pender's work stands as an act of immense courage. It is the essence of what investigative journalism should be.
And the winner is Robert Cribb, Wendy Ann Clark, my former student, Declan Keogh, and Owen Thompson. Congratulations.
My goodness, thank you so much. What a deep honor this is. Of all the categories, this one means the most to us because of the work that we do over months, and in this case, years. This was actually a 2.5-year project. An incredible effort to pull together a vast array of documents and data. So let me thank, first off, Nicole McIntyre, the editor of the Toronto Star. You can tell by the scope and breadth of stories when the Star's been nominated tonight, the kind of operation she runs, and we have been privileged to be given the time and effort to do this kind of work. Can we just do a round of applause for Nicole McIntyre. I just want to say, again, thanks to the young team of reporters at the Investigative Journalism Bureau. They're going to lose their minds over this. The amount of work that went into this was remarkable. They threw themselves in front of buses to get this story. It was an honor to be part of. It was a total collaborative effort. We built a huge tent, brought in experts, academics, senior journalists, and of course, young journalists. And it was a machine. About a year in, we had to make a call. Do we kill it or keep going? It's those are always tough calls. And thankfully, we decided to continue, and here we are. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Donc, on arrive au 21e prix sur 25. Ça va bien? Est-ce que le Canadien est encore égalité ou... Pour nous? Ça se passe bien. Donc, le prochain prix est nouvellement parrainé cette année. The next award is newly sponsored this year. I'm going to have to say a lot of names. I'm going to do my best. So, we want to thank the family and friends of Jeffrey Stevens who have donated the Jeffrey Stevens Award for sustained news coverage, in particular members of organizing committee, including Carol Van Ryn, Chris Waddell, Michael Adams, Jennifer Lewington, Bob Lewis, Patrick Martin, John Lashinger. Et maintenant, pour présenter le prix, Carol Van Ryn, qui est la sœur de M. Stevens.
The Jeffrey Stevens Award for Sustained News Coverage celebrates his more than 6 decades of political reporting and commentary. Known for quality, fact-based journalism that played an essential role in Canada's democracy, Stevens worked his way to managing editor of the Globe and Mail and was proudly responsible for appointing the Globe's first female foreign correspondent. He later served as managing editor of Maclean's magazine. The author of 6 books about Canadian politics, Stevens continued to write weekly political columns for Torstar publications until his death in 2023. Despite a seemingly endless series of changes and challenges, Stevens believed that with continuing support, the best days of journalism still lie ahead. This award is sponsored by the family and friends of Jeffrey Stevens. The Globe and Mail. There are thousands, perhaps millions, of Canadians wondering where they will be living next month, next year. A shortage of homes, rented or owned, has plagued Canada for decades. Despite proposals, plans, and projects by all levels of government, the country's housing crisis continues to deepen. Starting with a bold headline, Why You Can't Afford a Home, in 10 charts, the Globe and Mail produced dozens of articles in 2024. They explored the root causes of the housing crisis, such as inefficient programs set up by various levels of government and the failure of industry to innovate. Importantly, they offered solutions. Judges said the richly detailed and deeply researched reporting on this significant story contributed to the ongoing national debate. Caroline Touzin, Ariane Lacourcière, Gabrielle Duchesne et Katia Gagnon. La presse. Lorsque les institutions chargées de protéger les jeunes vulnérables manquent à leur devoir, les journalistes peuvent donner une voix aux sans-voix et susciter un changement positif. C'est ce qu'ont fait Caroline Touzin, Ariane Lacourcière, Gabrielle Duchesne et Katia Gagnon de la presse en 2024. Dans une série de reportages, elles ont exposé les problèmes horribles du système de protection de la jeunesse du Québec, allant de l'augmentation de l'utilisation de la contention et de l'isolement dans les centres de réadaptation et les foyers de groupe, aux mauvais traitements infligés par les parents d'accueil et les soignants. Plus important encore, ces histoires ont abouti à des résultats tangibles. 5 enquêtes gouvernementales ont été lancées. La directrice nationale de la protection de la jeunesse du Québec a démissionné. Un service de protection de la jeunesse a été placé sous tutelle et les dossiers d'un certain nombre d'enfants ont été rouverts. Les juges ont estimé qu'il s'agisse d'un cas d'école de journalisme qui fait la différence. Toronto Star. If not for the Toronto Star, a young father named Umar Zamir might forever be labeled a murderer for running down a Toronto police officer during a chaotic confrontation in a City Hall parking garage in 2022. Almost immediately after the incident, the Toronto police chief called the death of Constable Jeffrey Northrup a deliberate and intentional act. It was not. Through dogged reporting, careful analysis, and gripping storytelling in written, audio, and video form, the Star's team of journalists was able to change the narrative around Northrup's tragic death. Judges said, the newspaper's dedication to getting the story right offers a compelling example of journalism that changed the lives of a family caught in a situation beyond their control.
The Globe and Mail. The Globe and Mail. No.
Thank you very much for the honor. I want to acknowledge the work of the other nominees, which was fantastic. I guess you can imagine I'm one small person behind a very large team, and for me, working out of the Ottawa Bureau, where I don't get to see my colleagues in Toronto very much, this was a really wonderful experience for me. I would go on Zoom, and I would be part of these wonderful conversations with photographers and designers, data experts who knew so much more than I did and were so creative. And I guess that's what's behind kind of like sustaining interest in a really complicated topic like housing, is that you have brilliant people who really want to get the story right and feel strongly about one of the most important national issues in our country. And so I also want to call out our senior editors, David Walmsley, Sinclair Stewart, and Dennis Troquette, who, of course, give us time to debate and argue and wrestle with the story until it speaks to Canadians. So thank you very much.
Carlos Osorio, Reuters. With excellent use of color and light, Carlos Osorio of Reuters delivers a spellbinding glimpse into the bold, brazen, and bizarre spectacle of the 2024 U.S. election campaign. These are the faces that delivered into the White House Donald Trump, a polarizing politician whose impact is being felt worldwide. While elections are covered regularly, judges praised Osorio's use of light, composition, movement, and perspective to give the campaign a fresh expression. They said Trump often called journalists enemy of the people during campaign rallies, adding an extra bit of pressure to an already taxing assignment. Goran Tomashevich, The Globe and Mail. While the world's attention was pulled in many directions in 2024, the Israeli-Hamas conflict, the war in Ukraine, the Globe and Mail's Goran Tomashevich documented a violent tragedy closer to home. His story on the rise of gangs in Haiti showed the faces of the many children who have been dragged into the conflict, not only as victims, but also as those holding the guns. Traveling to Haiti 3 times, he brought international attention to a crisis that might otherwise have remained invisible. Judges said Tomashevich showed great bravery in what must have been hazardous situations. These haunting images rip you apart. Martin Tremblay, La Presse. Les photos du reportage bouleversant de Martin Tremblay publiées dans la presse nous montre sans embâche les nombreuses familles à la recherche d'êtres chers disparus après la chute du règne sanglant de Bachar el-Assad en Syrie. En fouillant dans des documents éparpillés et détruits, et parfois parmi les corps, elles ont cherché des réponses. Dans certains cas tragiques, elles ont retrouvé leurs proches décédés. C'est une vision pathétique. Les juges ont fait l'éloge de ces compositions bien réalisées, prises dans des circonstances extrêmement difficiles. Ils ont déclaré que ces photographies percutantes et parfois saisissantes illustrent le chagrin et le deuil dans un environnement sinistre.
Et le gagnant, Carlos Osorio.
The John Hondrick Award for Project of the Year pays tribute to a man who had an outstanding career at the Toronto Star as a reporter, foreign correspondent, editor, publisher, and chair of the board. John Hondrick was a lifelong advocate for excellence and integrity in journalism, and newspapers' important role in preserving a healthy democracy. As publisher, he advocated for critical public issues such as national unity, youth unemployment, racial diversity, healthcare, and the promotion of literacy. He also personally sponsored education for journalists in Africa. This award is sponsored by the Hondrick family.
Calgary Herald, Calgary Sun. The Calgary Herald, Calgary Sun gave readers an in-depth exploration of inflationary and affordability issues in their project, Squeezed. What makes the project stand out from others are stories about people who are struggling but refuse to be beaten down. They are made more compelling through easy-to-understand graphics that situate Calgary in the national conversation. Judges said, "We see ourselves reflected in the Barnfield family, in gig worker Waleed and retiree Dorothy Bagan. It's in seeing the myriad ways in which Calgarians try to juggle finances and work multiple jobs to make ends meet that we understand the deepening affordability hole." They said, as Canada enters a period of economic uncertainty triggered by a trade war, may journalists across the country endeavor to continue such reporting. La presse. De nombreux Québécois déclarent manquer de temps, être extrêmement fatigués et disent que cela nuit à leur qualité de vie. Pour son projet de l'année, la presse a décidé de réagir. Elle a mobilisé une équipe de journalistes, de chroniqueurs et de photographes pour traiter rigoureusement de la question. Est-il vraiment possible de ralentir? Ils ont mesuré la façon dont les gens passent leur temps aujourd'hui par rapport aux générations précédentes. Où passent-ils leur temps? Et les avantages scientifiques du ralentissement. Ils ont également proposé des solutions concrètes, publiant plus de 30 articles au total. Les juges ont dit que la presse a offert un examen en profondeur de la façon dont les Canadiens peuvent ralentir et vivre une vie plus connectée et plus saine à l'ère du numérique. Ils ont estimé que la présentation visuelle et l'utilisation des données étaient impressionnantes. Toronto Star. The project began with an email to the Toronto Star from Alice Munro's daughter, Andrea Skinner. She spoke about the sexual abuse she'd suffered, starting at age 9, at the hands of her stepfather. She told other journalists over the years, berated her mother's biographer, and urged lawyers to help her go public. Each time, she was discouraged or ignored. Her mother's legacy as a literary icon seemed sacred, until the Toronto Star acted, engaging its entire newsroom to cover every nuance and implication of the family's experience over a 6-month period. Judges said the project revealed how power silences vulnerable voices and how shame can corrode families and enable abusers. But also how, with love and hard work, shame can be overcome.
Donc, le média gagnant pour le projet de l'année est le Toronto Star.
As Betsy knows, this was a really emotional story to report on, and it was a story that took so much out of both of us, but also, I think, gave us so much as well. I think one of the most important roles in journalism and one of its biggest privileges is raising the voices of those who have been silenced. When Andrea Robin Skinner approached our columnist Heather Malick about the story of her stepfather's sexual abuse and her mother's complicity, we knew this was a story we had to tell. In order to raise Andrea's voice, though, we had to prove her story, support its veracity, and expose the elements that contributed to her silence. That took a newsroom-sized effort. Nicole McIntyre, our editor-in-chief, unequivocally said yes. Jordan Himmelfarb gave me the time to wrap my head around the story so that I could do it justice. Betsy Powell, who went to Huron County and met people and dug up what had been hiding in plain sight for so many years. Doug Cudmore, Jim Rankin, Steve Russell, the digital team, my colleagues in opinion who suffered with more work so I could be taken away and to do this story. We did hours of interviews, personal and sensitive interviews, and worked to gain the trust of Andrea, her family, and the broader literary community. We built trust that has been rewarded over and over again in the people and the organizations we've helped and the awareness of childhood sexual abuse that followed. The impact has been profound. The New York Times, The New Yorker, documentaries, international media outlets have all followed our story. But most importantly, we've heard from countless individuals who simply said, "Thank you. Now I don't feel so alone." Andrea Robin Skinner wanted to show others that they need not be afraid to tell their truth and their story, even if your mother is a world-renowned icon known domestically and internationally as St. Alice, or maybe even especially then.
Donc, la soirée tire à sa fin. J'entends que les choses vont bien au Centre Bell. Last I checked, it was 5-3 Montreal. So flaming cars are definitely on the table. We have only 2 awards left. Il nous reste seulement 2 prix à remettre. Donc, ce n'est pas moi qui aurai l'honneur de les remettre. Je vais réinviter Paul et François à venir remettre ces prix.
C'est la 3e période, mais c'est aussi la 3e année qu'on présente une mention spéciale de reconnaissance. Une mention comme celle-là vise à reconnaître un travail de journalisme qui est exceptionnel, mais qui ne cadre pas nécessairement dans les différentes catégories, soit parce que le sujet ne s'y prête pas, soit parce que l'organisation concernée n'est pas admissible. Et donc, le comité de sélection comprend les 2 derniers lauréats du prix pour remettre cette mention spéciale.
Again, this is the 3rd year that we've presented a special recognition citation. It's designed to recognize exceptional journalism that perhaps doesn't quite fit into our existing categories. Maybe the topic wasn't right, or maybe it was just created by an organization that was otherwise ineligible. The judging panel includes the 2 previous winners of the award, and to learn more about this, please watch the video.
Globe Photojournalism Summit. The pandemic and decline of professional associations left many photojournalists feeling isolated and discouraged about the future of the industry. The Globe and Mail decided to act, bringing 46 contributors from across the country together last June for the 2-day Globe Photojournalism Summit in Toronto. A true passion project, most of the budget was used to offset photographers' travel costs, with Globe staff going beyond their day jobs to look after AV, logistics, and food. The event included presentations from industry experts, roundtable discussions, Ask Me Anything sessions with Globe editors, and a celebration of photographers' work. It led to a surge in pitch success rates and the creation of several projects, including their Underexposed series. Judges said the summit was an opportunity for editors to reckon with criticism and improve working conditions. They said it's a model of leadership and an example of what major players in the industry should be doing.
So I don't need to tell you who the winner is, I just need someone from the Globe to come up and get it.
Wow, thank you very much. My name is Solana Kane. I am a photo editor at the Globe. It's an honor to accept this on behalf of my team on the photo desk. We are the ones who pulled off this incredible photojournalism summit. I would like to thank Liz Sullivan, Deputy Visual Editor at the Globe, our fearless leader who immediately saw the value in bringing almost 50 photojournalists from across the country together. Thank you to David Walmsley, who threw his full support behind this idea. And thank you to Andrew Saunders, who attended both days of the summit. It was truly an incredible feat. It was a lot of work. There was no hired event staff. I've never carried so many cases of water. But we did it because we know that freelance photojournalism is integral to this industry. Day in and day out, often with limited resources, they are on the front lines of the news that we are covering, capturing images that take a great story and push it over the edge. Canadian photojournalism needs to be protected. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Et maintenant, notre dernier prix de la soirée, journaliste de l'année. On a créé ce prix en 2015 parce qu'on jugeait que malgré toute cette liste d'excellents journalisme, de journalisme grande qualité, que certaines œuvres journalistiques se démarquaient au point de mériter une reconnaissance supplémentaire, un petit plus par rapport au prix sectoriel.
All right, you've almost made it to the end, so hang in here. This is our final award of the night, one that was created in 2015, because some journalism is just so damn frickin' good. Didn't say that in the text, but it's the last part of the speech, so Bev, I can get away with this. Anyways, it's so good that it deserves additional recognition.
Pour choisir le journaliste de l'année, on a formé un comité spécial incluant d'anciens lauréats du concours canadien de journalisme afin d'examiner les candidatures de chacune des 23 catégories. Nos juges cette année étaient Magdalene Boudros, Jason Chu, Jason Kerr, tous trois lauréats du concours canadien de journalisme.
And the selection, the tough job of deciding who would have this honor, we convened a separate panel of judges, including former NNA winners. To review the winning entry in each of our 23 categories, our judges this year were NNA winners Magdalene Boutros, Jason Chu, and Jaron Kerr. We're at the drum roll time. Come on, room, let's get it up.
Roulement de tambour en bon français. Et le gagnant ou la gagnante est Aaron Beswick, Chronicle Herald. Bravo.
You guys are all giants to me and always have been. Since I've been a kid reading newspapers, I never thought I'd be here getting this. And there's a lot of lonely hours as you guys all work in this racket. And I mean, this will be precious to me till the day I die. I mean, thank you so much.
Merci tout le monde. Merci François, merci Paul. Quelques mots avant qu'on... En fait, on a fini. Just a few closing words before we move on. Drinks will be served until 12 and a half here, midnight, and how do you say it in English? 12 and a half, is it okay? 12:30, okay, great. After, for those who want to party on, we will meet at Bar Furco on Mayor Street. It's a 20-minute walk from here. Do I have a... Yes. En guise, vous l'avez compris, on s'en va au Furco après minuit et demi, ceux qui veulent y aller. Si vous avez été finaliste, vos plaques sont ici. For the finalists, your plaques are here. Et les gagnants qui ne les auraient pas ramassés, il y a des gagnants qui ont oublié. Ramassez, s'il vous plaît, les certificats de vos collègues. Please pick up your colleagues' plaques too. Yeah, that's it. Have a good night. Thank you for being here.